Hi, welcome to my show. Today, my guest is Nina Caruso. Caruso, did I? Okay.
Carissa.
And Nina, actually, I met a long time ago, and we just, myself as a writer and her as an artist, and other beliefs that we share, we followed each other for a very long time, and I'm continuously impressed with her artwork. And so I invited her here to talk about her artwork and her life coaching business that she has started a while back. So, Nina, welcome, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
And like I said, I have watched your artwork just develop and your business. And I'd like you to share a little bit about that. Like, how did you start? Where did you start?
Sure.
Um, and how did you develop that? Uh, and I have some images here that are just absolutely magnificent that I will
Thank
share in a
you.
little bit.
Thank you. Yes. So, in talking about how did you start or how did you get there, I mean, I really feel it's a whole process. And when I go back to the beginning, I was always interested in art, always interested in making art, getting my hands onto materials and manipulating them. So, very process based though. And I feel like when I look at my life, it's the same as far as my progression into getting into art. I've been a teacher for 20 years. So not only have I taught art, I've also taught pre K, child development in those areas. Wrapping it all up into now looking at coaching and creating that business, I see it as no different as being an artist and also a teacher combined in one. So, as a coach, I'm using the creative processes that we have within us innately to help one to develop their inner self so that then they can expand out into the world to be that true, authentic self that they came here to be.
Wow. Well, obviously from following me, that I strongly believe in that as well, in the creative process, how it is able to heal us in many ways and transform us, and just something, takes stress away. There's so many creative aspects that are able within ourselves that sometimes we don't tap into because we have a busy life.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you help us kind of disconnect from all of that and be able to be in touch with that because that's where our intuition lives, you know? But with your art, you're very productive as an artist. And how do you schedule all that? I want to share some of your artwork, but like for instance, let's look at some of this just so beautiful. Even just looking at it creates such peace. How do you make time for that? And how did you develop? Oh, this is about your other work. Actually, these
That's
images
the other website, yes.
yes.
If
I'm
you want
just
to
gonna
look
go
at,
through
yeah,
that and just because all of it is so beautiful and it's all connected
it is
anyway. It's
connected.
very
And it, yes.
connected. But see, like this, this. Can you maybe describe what did you feel about this, and what are you trying to convey here?
So that there is really just a photograph that I took in just a playful mode of an actual lotus flower in a pond. And just this little tiny baby character that I actually play around with, kind of a hide and seek thing with my friend. So I just thought that that image really spoke to kind of like identity and who you are and blossoming into what as far as talking about the individual and it's a process in our life as far as coming to be who we are. It's not a start and a finish, it's an ongoing unfolding, and I thought that image was perfect for that. So I used that in my website.
And
Satori Shift.
so, say somebody, how would you use something like that to work with an individual?
So, with an individual, in that case, that's part of the menu as far as the suggested menu to work with identity. So, kind of coming into yourself and getting to know who you are and what your purpose is. Maybe connecting the ties from the past, looking at some common threads as far as where were your interests? Where did you find that you kind of almost got lost in a way that you lost track of time and you didn't want to stop? Was it playing outside? Was it writing? Was it reading? Was it music? Where was that space that you found that just you were at total peace or total connection. And for me, it's been art. That doesn't mean it's art for everyone. It's just I'm going through an artful process of finding what it is for you and then developing that further.
Oh, I love that. And so when you help the person identify that place where they can get lost, because that's their creative identity. How do we? Because again, working with you probably feels wonderful, and as you take
Thank
people
you.
through certain steps. So just right now, to just share with the general public, how do we maintain that? Because sometimes after we tap into where we need to tap into, then we go off into the world, and then we're again back onto the clock of what our schedule is like, and then we get disconnected from what people like yourself are trying to have us touch base with. What's something that you can just, and I know each person is different because you would have to evaluate their life and their schedule, and that's where working one-on-one is very important. But just since we have you here, what would you suggest is that how do we maintain that? Because that seems like one of the problems that people are having.
As far as that goes, I think a big part of that has to do with the commitment on one's part, and there's sometimes some work to be done there as far as self-worth, and then allowing one to have that self-care. But really, if you look at it on this level of its necessity, you look at it as a necessity of a part of your life just as much as food and sleep and a roof over your head. If you can really acknowledge that, then I think you start to really find the place and the time in your life to incorporate these processes that are going to be so nurturing and beneficial for you to explore yourself, your identity, and then be able to start to express it and expand out into the universe so that you can also impact others in their processes.
Yeah, I like that word that you just said, is the necessity. So I guess the reason that we don't maintain it is because we don't give it enough value. And that's where the self-worth issue that you're saying. And if we were to give it more value, we would become actually more productive in our life. I have found when I do address and do the creative aspects and work on my projects, I am more patient with others because I've been patient with myself. I've given myself time, so I'm okay with giving my children time, my husband time. And when I don't, I get antsy and anxious, like, okay, well, everybody's taking my time and I'm not really, and I'm wanting to work on this. But even if I just give it a little bit of care and attention, then I am more attuned to somebody else's need, and I'm more okay to reaching out to help them, So I really, but I never really, I mean, I like the word that you chose because that's important. Sometimes we hold back from, and maybe that's the problem too, is that we don't really express a strong word for it. And I feel that the word that you just said with regards to necessity is very strong and very appropriate. So yeah, thank you for that. And with regards to art, maybe give us also a little bit background that, self-taught artists versus artists, taking classes, versus like what has been your journey, and what would you advise people that if they feel, whether it's money stopping them or usually, like, they feel like if they're not taking certain classes. I know a woman who has taken some community classes, but she is very, she always talks about exhibiting her work one day, but then doesn't take it that far. So there's some fear. So to treat that on a professional level, what would you advise people who are, for whatever reason, are holding themselves back?
Yeah, so for holding yourself back as maybe potentially wanting to be this showing artist or anything in life, right? Take it on any
Taking
level
it to
as far as
into the
you
world.
have this wish to, maybe even your passion that you want to bring into the world, and you have these dreams and they're not manifesting. With that, looking at going into this idea of who you are, your identity, and then also looking at what is in your way. What is the fear? So even for example, with that, I want to show my artwork. Well, then get out of your own way. Find out what it is that's blocking you. When you know what the next step is, okay, it's looking at online these calls to art. Well, what is it that's stopping you? What is getting in your way? Is it, well, I don't have good images of my work? Well, then get good images of your work. It's really being honest too. So taking that kind of inventory of, what is in your way, and once you start to kind of address these hurdles, of course there's always more. There's always more that you're going to come against, but really push through them, I think is what you need to do in that sense. And if you find that as you're pushing through them, no, this is not my path, that's fine, as long as something else is opening up, that you're not using it as an excuse, that you're honest with yourself, and that you are moving forward. Because once you start to do that, you'll be surprised at the doors that will open, instead of just kind of giving up so easily and say, oh, well, I can't do that because of.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think you can tell a person's hard work, that they've honored their talent by the work that they produce. So in your case, by the work that we see here, it's really an honor. You're honoring, like I didn't even realize, when you were describing this and you said it was a photo that you took, and the story behind it, and I thought, well, part of this is, your belief in yourself, and then you're honoring your work to take it to the next level, and then you've created a website, and then you create this and this, and you're constantly creating, but people recognize that. Nowadays we almost have no excuse because we have social media, and this is how I've been seeing your work, right?
Yeah.
I've tried to come to your exhibits and things like that because I'd love to, but between the kids and my busy schedule, but I've been observing that, and I've been having you bring a lot of joy through your art and the things that you're doing, and just by being an inspiration by what you do, because the person that's watching you, as we remember where we started, and we were expressing ourselves and some of our frustrations, and we see ourselves grow. So you are setting an example, and you're inspiring, and there's just so many wonderful things. So I feel that probably, and then your inspiration achieved a point where you started Satori Shift. Am I saying it right?
Satori Shift.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that. And then I found out, as I was looking through your website, the term, what Satori means. And I thought, wow, we could just have we could just talk about this all day. So tell us a little bit about how you started that business, and the meaning behind the name, because I found it very fascinating.
Sure, yeah. So as a coach, sometimes you might just use your own name, or you might come up with a name for your business. And so I do both. I use my name, Nina Caruso, but also Satori Shift. And the reason that I chose that was I wanted, within the name, I wanted this energy to kind of point you towards what this whole idea is. So shift, we know, and we're up against that universally right now. It feels like there's a lot changing, not only environmentally, but also internally. And I believe that we're connected as human beings to the universe. In that sense, we're just mini universes. So we're sensing this shift. And I think that anyone you talk to is sensing a shift within themselves as well, personally or emotionally, or even spiritually. So there's that part, that it was important to me to have that in the name. But Satori is a Buddhist term, kind of referencing kind of sudden awakening or sudden enlightening. So kind of coming to this shift where you're waking up to who you are and what your purpose is. So it's Satori Shift. And then along with that is the art of living on purpose. So not only just with purpose, because that's important, of course, but on purpose. You're living here on purpose. You're awake, and that connects with this whole awareness movement that we have now. Be present, be aware. So all of that is referencing just kind of be here, who you are, who you came to be, and just really have that presence within you, and then the power that that can bring for others as well, so that they can honor that within them. Kind of connected to that namaste gesture. I honor the light in you. The light in me
Yes.
sees the light in you, and I honor it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I like, um, you're right that there's been a lot of shifts, but I love how people have taken that with all the shifts happening. And it, to me, this is what it feels like you've done is that exactly what you're trying to do for others is really look within and use the energy in a powerful way to shift how things are happening and to kind of say like kind of being the image that you're wanting from the world to be. So rather than point fingers or getting frustrated, but you're creating such beauty and then also providing space for others to help them do the same by being like I like this thing about necessity and having them identify their creative aspect and kind of helping them allow themselves to be lost in that.
Yes.
These are all very important and they're very needed in the world right now. So it's just, I mean, it's very exciting to see you doing this kind of work. Um, I even with writing, some of the things that I ask in the workshop is that why are you really writing? What is it? So aside from, because everybody says, well, I want to write this, or, oh, I feel like I have a story in a book, and it just stays as an idea.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go to the next step. And I'm not even sure if maybe they really, it was meant for them to be writers or not, but it was something that came up. But a lot of times when I do a spiritual and writing retreat where we kind of go deeper and it's not really just the technical aspects of the writing, but it's kind of looking at how you're treating this is that what is the purpose? Why are you investing in your time into this? So what is your purpose? What have you found? What questions have you asked yourself that has brought you to where you are today, that has helped you evolve and transform to the person you are today, where not only are you creating magnificent art, but you are able to teach others how to create a magnificent artistic lifestyle? What questions did you ask yourself along the way that has helped you that
Yeah.
maybe we can benefit from?
No, and I think maybe more so sort of responses. I guess at this point I would look at from the past anyway, just kind of responding to things. When I found Waldorf education, I thought that that was just a beautiful way to honor an individual and educate them as far as unfolding.
Can you give
their
a little bit
process.
background about that for people who are not familiar with the Waldorf
Sure. So
education?
that's coming out of the philosopher Rudolf Steiner.
Mhm.
And it is an approach to education that honors the whole child. So also looking at the spiritual aspects of one and the unfolding of them and their gifts that they can bring. It's its own special way of educating. For example, the early childhood, which is what I worked in for years, was really not so much academic as much as it was play based. And then with the language arts developing, you had movement, story time, songs and verses, these kind of things to really help the child to develop as an individual. And then came more the academics, but also in the higher grades, the students made their own books actually out of what the education they were receiving. So it's very artistic as well. And I just believe that that's an aspect that's innately in us. Even if someone says I'm not creative, well, maybe they didn't have the opportunity to be. So once we have that and we can nourish it and foster it, we'll find that it is there within us. So that's part of my journey. And again, I reference that word process. I just feel like not only am I a process-based artist, that's just how I live my life as far as, really responding to what's in front of me and moving forward. So the Waldorf education was a big piece of that, finding that and just honoring that and being a teacher in that for years, and then recognizing that there's this desire in me to be an artist. So then developing that further, looking at other modalities that are really nourishing in life, like yoga, then taking that on and being a yoga instructor, and then growing that one bit further to be a holistic life coach. So really encompassing all areas of life and the needs there. So really kind of walking through life in a way with open eyes and kind of looking at, well, what resonates with me? What can I develop within me that I can then go out and share into the world?
Okay, so obviously there was a question, but at the same time, it seems like along your journey, you're just a very good listener to your intuition, and you honor that. It sounds like because you said that when you were in this, and you were an observer
Absolutely,
of
observer, I'd say,
you're an
definitely.
observer,
Eyes
and
open.
yeah, your eyes were open, and then anything that resonated with you, you're
Mhm.
responding to that. So you were
Yeah.
very open and non-judgmental about
Yeah.
how things were happening. Now, regarding the education with the creative aspect and the that education, I've read about it with the Waldorf school education, and I believe it's only to a certain level. I don't know when read about it. It was, I think, up to sixth grade.
It depends on the school.
It depends on the school.
Yeah, typically they do go K-12, but not all schools do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my question is, has it gone to the point of outside of high school where, it has touched academia? I'm just...
Well, sure, there are anthroposophical studies for adults even, and
Yeah.
there's a whole movement. There's even there are areas where it's a whole community, even like the Camp Hill movements, where they honor the anthroposophical way of life and the biodynamic gardening, which is also out of Rudolf Steiner. So that's definitely something to look into. It's just a very, like I said, holistic movement. And for me, when I came across that, it was just something that, and when I say eyes wide open, it's not just the physical eyes, obviously. It's the head and the heart, and it's making a connection, and it's speaking to me, and it's saying that has something of value to the human being and our human existence.
It's funny. So the last guest that I interviewed was Dr. Munahana Atisha, and her book is What the Eyes Don't See. The title of her book, and we talked about that. And what I'm seeing here is, I love this. I'm seeing how science and is coming, how it's uniting with the spiritual aspect and the creative aspect, and this is more, people are understanding the value of all of these, and honoring them together rather than kind of separating them.
Yes.
Like that it has to be this way, where you're just using your logic and not using your your heart, and vice versa. But it's really the combination of all of that, and that's what listening and an awakening, where you're keeping your eyes open. So you're keeping your eyes open, and you're respecting the different types, whether it's your feelings and the things that you're seeing and the information that you're taking in. So it's like it feels to me like a balanced way of taking things in. So you're kind of, so that you're not just saying, well, my heart feels this way and I'm just going to rush out and just do it, and then you get like it's a crash, but there's a system to this. Like you said, there's a process to this. So you understand the value of that.
Mm-hmm.
You also understand the value of listening to your intuition, your creative side. Yeah. So listening with your eyes fully, being aware is listening with all of your senses. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's what it seems like?
I would
in
say
your
in
case?
there, and again, to just reiterate, the head and the heart being in agreement.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you're just going from the heart, you might rush into something, and it's really finding the balance in that, and it's not easy, because you might rush in wholeheartedly with something and then find yourself into something that you're not quite equipped for, or even on the other end within your head, you're like, this is what I have to do, this is what is expected, and if you're just going that route too, that's you're kind of just part of you is in.
Yes.
Either way, and we know that balance is so important in life, and I think that it takes a while to really, even for me, I still I'm working with balance with everything. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's with everything. It's not just with our careers. I mean, even with our marriage, with our relationship with our kids, with our significant other, with our parents. It's got to be a balance of having that kind of understanding between the mind and the the mind, the spirit, the even our physical well-being. We have
Mhm.
to honor that as well. We can't just kind of be negligent with our physical world
Yes.
and then expect that we can achieve
Mhm.
certain places. So I only have a few minutes left, and I want you just to kind of share that if somebody wants to be in contact with you, if you can share your websites or any other
Sure.
contact information, that
Great.
would be very helpful.
Great. So, my website for my art and teaching mentoring is ninacaruso.com.
So that's your
And you'll be
name.
able to go to that address and you can see the gallery page with some of my artwork and also some of the shows that I've been in. And then for the coaching and that in that artistic kind of creative way, you can go to satorishift.com, which is SATORISHIFT, and you'll find a suggested menu of purposeful creations there for you to maybe kind of inspire you to say, yeah, I think I could use some help or guidance in this area, or just contact me directly through that contact link and we can see what it is that your need is and work together to see that through.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I will also be writing a blog post after this airs, so people can also find that information on there. I'll put the links and stuff like that.
Great.
So again, Nina, thank you for coming. It was
Thank
so good
you.
to see
You
you
too.
and continue creating art and doing and your beautiful teachings. And I'll continue to watch.
Thank you.
Take care.